Hello, teachers, parents, and educational leaders, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Now, during this episode, you will get a peek into the members-only area where I have tons of resources to help you make math fun, make it click, and make it stick. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it, and let's break down the standard. Welcome to Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, a video series dedicated to breaking down Florida's best standards for math. So grab something to write with and maybe even a snack. This looks good. And don't forget to put a smile on your face. There you go. I see you. And let's dive into today's best standard. Hey everyone. My name is Sarah McCarthy and I am super excited that you are joining me as we break down the following standard. Today's standard is MA.5.GR.1.1 and the standard says to classify triangles or quadrilaterals into different categories based on shared defining attributes. Explain why a triangle or quadrilateral would or would not belong to a category. So when we're talking about classifying, we're talking about sorting. Triangles, of course, are three-sided polygons. Quadrilaterals are four-sided polygons. And by the way, this document that I'm marking up all over is not something that I have created. No. This is something that the Florida Department of Education releases to the public. And in these Breaking Down the B.E.S.T episodes, I'm just showcasing how I break down the standards in order to create the resources that you have access to with your membership. So we'll take some time to break down the standard, and then we'll pop over to the website and see what resources are strategically aligned to the standard that we go over today, okay? This, for clarifications, it says that triangles include, get ready, scalene, isosceles, equilateral, acute, obtuse, and right. Those are the different kinds of triangles that we will talk about. And quadrilaterals include parallelograms, rhombi, which is the plural form of rhombus, rectangles, squares, and trapezoids. I did not write this down for trapezoids before, but I do want to include it. That trapezoids, we are talking about the inclusive definition. Sometimes in the United States, we define trapezoids having exactly one pair of parallel lines. But with the B.E.S.T standards, we're talking about the inclusive definition. That means that trapezoids are quadrilaterals that have at least one pair of parallel sides, meaning that a parallelogram is technically a trapezoid when we're wrapping it up in this definition. There are no related benchmarks or horizontal ways to align this standard, but there are a whole lot of terms that we need to make sure that our students know. An acute triangle has all acute angles. An equilateral triangle has three equal sides, and all of this is broken down in the video lessons. I'll show you in a little bit. Isosceles triangles are triangles with two sides that are of equal length. An obtuse triangle contains an obtuse angle. Parallelograms have two pairs of parallel sides. A quadrilateral is a four-sided polygon. A rectangle is a quadrilateral that has four right angles. A rhombus is a quadrilateral with four equal sides. A right triangle contains a right angle. A scalene triangle has all different side lengths. A square is a quadrilateral that has four equal sides and four right angles. A trapezoid, we've stated that it is the inclusive definition, which means that it is at least one pair of parallel sides. And a triangle is a three-sided polygon. Again, all of this is broken down in the video lesson. So if you're not sure of what these terms mean, I'll show you where you can locate the video lessons that are intended for students, but still gives you the ability to learn from them too. Where are they coming from in fourth grade? Well, we've got 4.GR.1.1, which is identifying angles in two-dimensional figures. So coming up from fourth grade, they should know what an acute angle, obtuse, right, all of that. They should also know what quadrilaterals are and the different types of quadrilaterals as we classify them. And there will be other benchmarks in high school, that they will that they will follow up with this, especially when it gets to geometry. All right, here is the purpose and instructional strategies section. Let's see what jumped out at me. It says the purpose of this benchmark is for students to understand that shapes can be classified by their attributes, by their characteristics. And these attributes may place them in multiple categories. For instance, a triangle could be an equilateral triangle, which is based on the sides, and it could also be an acute triangle because it's based on the angles too. Here it says that the work in 5th grade will help students to understand that triangles can be defined by 2 different attributes that students can actually measure. We can measure the length of their sides, whether they have 3 congruent sides, congruent means equal, 2 congruent sides, or 0 congruent sides. So we can name them based on their sides, or we can name them based on the size of their angle measures. 3 acute angles makes it acute. It can have 2 acute angles and a right angle, which makes it a right triangle, or 2 acute angles and an obtuse angle, which makes it an obtuse triangle. It's important that students are able to classify in multiple ways using flowcharts, T-charts, Venn diagrams, and having a strong understanding and use of geometry vocabulary. We need to pose questions like, why is a square always a rhombus? And have students discuss that. Why is a rhombus not always a square? And help them to justify their thinking. Okay, some common misconceptions. It says that students may think that the last subcategory is the only classification that can be used. For instance, a square can also be a parallelogram. It can also be a rectangle. It can also be a rhombus. So drawing the shapes can help them determine their attributes. This, I would say, take a look at this instructional task because it's great for math discourse right here. It's a game where you can roll a number cube and then plug in these keys into the blanks, and then it gives the students an opportunity to discuss them. And then for this one, it says choose all the shapes that can always be classified as parallelograms, which means having 2 pairs of parallel sides. That would be a rectangle, a rhombus, and a square will always be parallelograms. Now, a trapezoid could sometimes be considered a parallelogram, but not always, so we can't mark that one. And I think that's it for going over the standard and seeing it a little bit in action. So let's go ahead and go to the website and see what you have access to with your Taking on the B.E.S.T membership. All right, so here we are. We're going to click Members Enter here. Select Taking on the B.E.S.T, and we're going to 5th grade. To the GR strand, Geometric Reasoning, and this one right here, MA.5.GR.1.1, Classifying Triangles and Quadrilaterals. So the very first page that you will open up to will contain your bronze level of resources. These resources are the video lessons and the printable student guides. So this is where we can make math fun and make it click for students, but the silver and the gold plan will help to ensure that it sticks, that students really understand this and they've had a lot of practice with it. Here are the video lessons. We have classifying triangles based on their angles. So we'll be taking a look and using a square corner to determine what types of triangles these are based on their angles. The next video lesson is classifying triangles based on their side lengths. So this is where we'll talk about equilateral triangles, isosceles triangles, and scalene triangles. Then the third video lesson is classifying quadrilaterals using this flowchart right here. Now again, we want to make sure that students have that extra practice. So when you click on silver, if you have the silver or the gold membership, you'll have access to these. Click here for your printables. All right, and here we go. So this is the video lesson. It says identify the correct name of each triangle based on its angles and include a brief description of each. So these are great notes to take for the video lesson. So then it's the second video lesson based on their sides. And then after that, there's a couple of extra practice items saying where we can select all the names that can be used to classify each of these triangles. So you can see we've got them based on the angles and based on the sides, based on the angles, based on the sides. Extra practice there. And then this video lesson is classifying quadrilaterals using this graphic organizer. And then here for extra practice 2, we'll be able to use the following terms to classify each figure. So looking here, yes, this is a rectangle, but it's also a polygon, a quadrilateral, It's technically considered to be a trapezoid, and it's a parallelogram as well as the rectangle. It stops right there at the rectangle. So we'll look at all 6 of these different shapes and give them all the names that they have, including the most specific name for each. Extra practice 3, why is a square always a rhombus? Why is a rhombus not always a square? Why is a parallelogram always a trapezoid? Why is a trapezoid not always a parallelogram? Why is a rectangle sometimes a square but not always? Okay, and then for the math mission, we've got a math task here. It says use sometimes, always, or never to make each statement true. Provide additional reasoning to justify your thinking. This math mission involves students using always, sometimes, and never into the blanks and then explaining why, justifying their thinking, and these can be tricky for students, so their notes will help them, the practice will help them get to this point. And then we have the other video, which is Math Misconception Mystery. You just go right here on your silver page, you click play right there, and I will guide you through the entire process in the video. So I will say, okay, go ahead and solve this problem on your own or with your small group. You all can decide. They will solve this problem. It says which statement about a rhombus is always true. So they'll have to look at all the different answer choices and select the one that they think is the best answer. Then they will press play and watch as 4 other characters also solve that same problem. 3 of the characters are going to make mistakes that students commonly make, have misconceptions that students normally have, and only 1 character will have the correct answer. These characters are just me dressed up in silly costumes, and it's super, super fun. After they watch the video, they will fill out their detective reports right here, stating who the most reasonable answer belongs to and evaluating the work of the other 3. And that is it for the silver. You've got answer keys right here too. And then if you have the gold plan, you have access to more. In the gold plan, you also have access to a mini assessment that's strategically aligned to the standard. They're typically about 4 to 5 questions, and I try to incorporate a variety of question types here. Oop, and I'm seeing right there that I need to go ahead and put some bubbles in there. So by the time you see this, you'll have the right thing in there, saying G, H, and I. Just see a variety of question types. Super awesome. Okay, you got the answer key right there. Once I finish editing and uploading this video, the breaking down the best video will be right here. That might be where you're watching it right now. These are great because they're right by all of the resources that you have access to with your gold plan. They are also available on YouTube. They just contain ads. So it's a nice little perk of being here as a gold member with it being ad free. However, the highlight for the gold plan is definitely McCarthy Math 155. This is a daily math intervention that's aligned to the Common Core standards. I know it says Common Core. I created Taking on the Best to align specifically to the best standards. However, there are so many great video lessons in here to really help your struggling students. If you have students that need more practice to build their confidence, this is where you can find it. So that 155, it stands for 155 video lessons for each grade. Let's click on 5th grade. Okay, and you can see the different units. We're going to go right here to 2-dimensional figures, where we're talking about polygons, classifying triangles, and classifying quadrilaterals. I just want to point out that for classifying quadrilaterals, we were using a different definition to the trapezoid. So remember that the trapezoid that we're talking about now, we're using that inclusive definition. So anything with a trapezoid, just be a little bit wary of what you're pulling from this, okay? So we've got what is a polygon, is a two-dimensional shape of polygon. We've got names of polygons that have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sides. So you can see not quite aligned with this standard, but definitely applies to the region that we're in. This one, though, does. Triangles names based on angles. So we're talking about acute angles, obtuse angles, right triangles. Triangle names based on angles with more practice. We've got day 132 is triangle names based on the sides, and then practice for that. And then we're talking about quadrilaterals, parallelogram, or trapezoid. Remember, be careful with trapezoid there because it has a different definition than we're using. Quadrilaterals, parallelograms with 4 right angles, we'll talk about here. And you'll see lyrics right there. It's because I'm using a song that I've created to help these make sense. Okay, so you can see there's a lot more. See, this is a different graphic organizer that we use where we put trapezoids off to the side because They had one pair of parallel sides, but now we're saying they're at least one pair, so it kind of falls down like this now, not going off to the side. So just be careful with that, but there is still a lot of practice there. And yeah, so I think that is it for going over what you have access to with your taking on the B.E.S.T membership, and also what the standard is saying, what the expectation is of the standard. So I hope all of this makes sense and you feel ready to rock and roll with this. Before we go, let me remind you that what you wake up and you choose to do with your life every day, it really does matter. Thank you for stepping into your leadership role, for showcasing what your best looks like to inspire your students to do the same. And of course, thank you so much for inviting me into your educational space. I really love being able to support you and your students and hopefully put some time back into your pocket. Speaking of time, I know that you're busy and that you've got tons to do, so I will let you go and get back to whatever it is that you have to get back to. And I'll see you in the next Breaking Down the B.E.S.T episode really soon, okay? Bye! Okay, so I know that I just said goodbye for now, but I'm going to ask you to do one more thing, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your teacher friends or other leaders in education. That's how I get to continue doing what I love to do, which of course is supporting you all to the best of my ability. All right, for real now. Bye!